Well, hey everyone, welcome to our final installment during Holy Week, the final days of Jesus. And before we jump in to this last teaching, I want to mention that stay tuned and hang in there on Facebook on Sunday for our Facebook Live at 10 a.m. to celebrate Easter Resurrection Sunday with everyone online at home. So don't forget, this coming Sunday, 10 a.m., tune in for Facebook Live, our Easter Resurrection Sunday celebration. Well, we're going to jump in, and this is the final moments. Yesterday, we left off with Jesus agonizing in the Garden of Gethsemane of, God, would you take this away from me? But my spirit's willing, but my flesh is weak, and I know what lies ahead. And he goes to pray 3 times to God to get that definite, yes, this is what you're called to do. And we looked at the idea of when life is pressing on us, where do we turn to and what comes out of us? Because Jesus set that example. When life was pressing on him, he ran to the Heavenly Father. And here we are. Now, Jesus is still in the garden, and his betrayer, in the middle of the night now, after Jesus is done praying, is going to show up. And here's how it begins in Mark chapter 14, verse 44. Judas is saying this, "The one I kiss," Judas said. "He's the one. Arrest him and take him away under guard." So when he came, immediately he went up to Jesus and said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. Now we have really interesting things going on in these 2 short verses, 44 and 45, and we're going to unpack this real quickly. Here we have in Mark chapter 14, verse 44, we have the word kiss. We know Judas goes to the officials and says, "Hey, I'm going to betray Jesus, but I'll betray him with this kiss. It's the one I kiss." And then in Mark, the next verse in 45, we have this word kiss, that Judas actually came up to Jesus and said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. Now here's where this gets the humanity comes in, and it's a little shocking. This word kissed in the Greek, in the original language, is phileo. Now the word phileo literally means just to kiss. It's like a normal smooch to someone. And in the ancient world, this is a tradition as you greet a rabbi just to come up and give him a little phileo, just a little kiss. And that's what Judas says. I will go up to Jesus. That's how you know who to arrest, because I'm going to go up and simply give him a kiss, a little smooch. Fascinating. This word here, when Judas actually kisses Jesus, here's the word in Greek. It's kata phileo. Now, just adding this one prefix to the word, just smooch, here's what it translates into. It's an intensive or prolonged kiss. Now, think about this. He tells everyone that comes to arrest Jesus, "I'm just going to kiss him." And then when he actually gets to his rabbi, to Jesus, the one he's been doing life with for the past 3 years, he does this prolonged kiss. In other words, it's almost like signaling to the guys, I want to make sure you know what one to arrest. I'm not just going to do the normal greeting kiss. My kiss will be prolonged and linger so you can arrest the right one. Now think about Jesus. Whoa. It had to be so obvious to him. Understanding, Judas, seriously? We did life together. And I understand being betrayed, but you made it very clear who I am. With this prolonged kiss, it was a clear warning signal to those who came to arrest. This one's Jesus. And in the garden right there, Jesus will get arrested. And he'll stand before a trial before the Sanhedrin. An illegal trial, by the way, because they were never allowed to try at night. And now Jesus will stand before the Sanhedrin. And as they question him of what can we get him to say in the midst of this trial, and all these arguments are coming back, but nothing is matching up, and they're trying to find a way to, we got to get rid of this guy. We got to get rid of him. And he's tried in this illegal trial at nighttime. Everything the Sanhedrin is doing right now is against their own laws. And the Sanhedrin, this group of people that are trying Jesus, are made up of three primary groups. You have the Pharisees, which is a group of people that Jesus probably attacked the most, calling them hypocrites and brood of vipers. They were the religious leaders of the time of Jesus. And you had the second group known as the Sadducees. They were the priestly elites of the ancient world. And then you would have the elders and those that knew the scribes. And you would also have a chief priest, a high chief priest in this council. There's about 71 of them in the middle of the night doing something illegal. They're trying Jesus. They're trying to trip him up on something. And finally, they would accuse him of blasphemy, of being the Son of God. And they bound him. In the midst of binding him, they spat on him. They blindfolded him. They beat him. And they slapped him. And then morning came around. And they took him to Pilate, to stand before Pilate, the governor, the Roman governor in Jerusalem. Because the Sanhedrin could not execute the death penalty. They were more with the religious affairs and trials. But the governor, Pilate, could. And they bring him with this crowd of the Sanhedrin, with Jesus beaten already. And Pilate wants to know, hey, it's custom during the Passover festival to release a prisoner. Do you want me to release Barabbas, a murderer, to you? Or do you want me to release Jesus? Because I see innocence in Jesus. And the crowd, the Sanhedrin's there yelling, crucify him, crucify him. And Pontius is like, are you sure? Because this guy's innocent. He's innocent. Or a murderer, who do you want me to release? And they're shouting, crucify him, crucify him. And I want you to know, this is not the same crowd that laid down the cloaks and the palm branches as Jesus rode in. This is a crowd of those who are part of the Sanhedrin who want to execute Jesus. And it's more than likely the crowd composed of the band that followed Barabbas, because they knew it was custom for Pilate to release a prisoner during Passover. And so they're probably there hoping, hey, may our mob leader, Barabbas, be released. So they all turn and say, crucify Jesus. And Pontius Pilate takes the water and does this theatrical scene where he washes his hands and he says, I am clean of this. This man's blood is on you guys. It's not on me, because he's innocent. So the soldiers take Jesus and they flog him. They flog him 39 times. The Romans said they do it 39. They basically beat a person to a breath of death. And they believe the 40th whipping would cause so much pain that that person would die. And here they are, absolutely tearing the back off of Jesus with stone and broken glass at the end of the tails of the whip. In fact, one biblical scholar says this about this flogging scene that criminals would have. You would tie them to a post and you would take off their shirt so their back was exposed. And here's what one biblical scholar says about this. William Barclay says this: it literally tore a man's back to ribbons. Sometimes it tore a man's eye out. Some men died under it. Some men emerged from the ordeal raving mad. Few retained conscience through it. And that is what they inflicted on Jesus. Many other biblical scholars say at the time you would probably not even recognize that that was Jesus. And so the soldiers grab him and they go to a room where they all kind of hang out. And they're going to mock Jesus a little more. They're going to twist some thorns and make a crown and jam it on Jesus' head. They mocked him. They stripped him, put a purple robe on him, and said, "Oh, hail the King of the Jews." They put his clothes back on, and they led him to his execution site. His execution site was just outside the city of Jerusalem. The Romans did not come up with crucifixions. Historians said the Romans, they perfected execution. That they would leave criminals on a cross for days, slowly killing them. And in the crucifixion, what would take place is you would do it low along the road, so as people would walk by, you can continue to hurl insults at the criminal on the cross. You can continue to mock them. And then you would have a sign either right above your head like this, or a chain on your neck holding the sign of what you're accused and what you're being tried of, and why did you receive crucifixion. And here they nailed Jesus to the cross. And Jesus is sitting there. I wonder if Jesus ever thought when he's on that cross, remember when I rode into this city on that donkey, and I was weeping loudly because they thought I was going to kill Romans and defeat the Roman Empire? This is what I came to do. I came to kill sin on the cross. And we're told there's a few people there. There's a bunch of Marys and John, and Jesus is about to take his last breath for you, for me. Jesus is going to understand something. As soon as my last breath happens, Heavenly Father, your kingdom can come. Your will be done. Wholeness and healing and forgiveness. Sin will finally be defeated because of this event. Sin defeated. Our relationship with you, Heavenly Father, can be restored once and for all. And Jesus says this: when Jesus had received the sour wine, he said, "It is finished." Then bowing his head, he gave up his spirit.